Hi, this is Mashnu, and I would like to show you a game against the Pirc defense in which white uses the so-called Austrian attack. It's a very strong weapon against the Pirc defense, and I hope to explain you some of the ideas behind this Austrian attack. We are looking at the game between Vlastimil Hort and Jan-Hein Donner, played in 1972 in the Hooghofens tournament, Wijk aan Zee. So that's the tournament that's called right now the Chorus tournament or Tata tournament. It changes name each time that the sponsor changes. Well, let's have a look at the game. Knight to f6, we have the Pirc defense here, and after g6 white has different choices. Bishop to e2 or bishop to e3 or f3 or knight to f3, g3 is also possible, and the Austrian attack is the move f4. That's the introduction of the Austrian attack. The idea behind this move f4 is to have a strong control in the center, especially of this square e5. In many games white continues later with e5 in this variation. But in this game something different happens that's very interesting to look at. Bishop to g7, knight f3, castle kingside, very normal moves. Bishop to d3 is also the most played move to prepare the castling of the king. Now here black has two main choices. Black has to make a decision here whether he wants to try to advance the c pawn to attack the center of white, or he wants to advance the e pawn. If he wants to advance the c pawn to c5, then black can play here knight to a6. If castling kingside, then c5. Now the most common reply by white here is to play d5, and then the knight goes to c7. And the knight on c7 is actually supporting a later b5 to try to gain some space on the queen side here. In the game, black chose for the other option, and this is to prepare the move e5. He did this by playing knight to c6. And now white replied in an uncommon way. Normally here the move e5 is played by white to prevent e5 and already attack in the center. It's a very strong continuation. After d takes e5, f takes e5 follows. So you have two pawns in the center and half open f file. The bishops are well directed against the king side of black. So this is, let's say, the most common move. But in this game white tried the move f5, and it's very interesting that this is actually the idea is to trade on g6 and then having an either half open or total open f file. So if black retakes with the f pawn, we have also this open diagonal here, so bishop to c4 can be used to attack the king, let's say to force the king to go to h8. In the game, black played here e5, so he goes on with his own plan of having some influence in the center, and white replied f takes e6 en passant. So he takes this pawn and then f takes e6 again, castle kingside, and we see the result of this now, that white still has more space in the center. The dark squares can be used for an attack. The main idea for white now is to play queen to e1, queen to h4 to support bishop to h6. If white can trade the dark squared bishops, then the weaknesses here will be useful. So let's say that this bishop are traded, then knight to g5 can enter with the threat of rook takes f6 and then checkmate on h7. Those are, let's say, main attacking ideas in this type of positions. Now black played here queen to e7, trying to defend the 7th rank and also perhaps supporting the move e5. White continued with queen to e1. Black went with his knight to d8, perhaps wanting to go to f6 to defend the h6 square, f7 I mean, or perhaps having an idea of advancing the c pawn to c5. Queen to h4 now played by white, and black continue with e5. So trying to get some influence in the center, trying to gain a bit more space, but the counterpart of this move is, as I said before, the opening of this diagonal here. Knight to g5 now played by white. So white is trying to attack, and black replied by the move h6. Let me go back just one move, because imagine that here black would do just a zero move, let's say something like c6 for example. Then we can investigate what the actual idea is behind this knight to g5, is that there is a sacrifice here on h7 possible. The knight cannot retake because the queen is undefended. That's the reason why black played the move h6 here. Now white gave a check on c4, king goes to h8, and in fact white has forced now the king to go to the h file where the white queen is. Now white played a knight to f3. After e takes d4 came a surprise for black. White didn't retake on d4. That was not the idea of knight to f3. The idea was to open this diagonal of this dark squared bishop by moving bishop to h6. He continues the attack now. Notice this bishop on c4 controlling g8, how important it becomes now. Here to block this diagonal, black played bishop to e6, but now came again a very attacking and active move by white. He played knight to d5, attacking the queen, attacking the knight on f6, and this is the moment when Donner decided to resign here. He did some calculations, and the only conclusion is that there is no defense for black here. Let's have a look at some possibilities. What if, for example, black decides to move the queen away, queen to d7? Then the easiest way to win here for white, is to take on f6. Knight takes f6, and after bishop takes f6, then knight to g5. The threat is to give a check on g7, double check. Check with the bishop and check with the queen, and then checkmate on h7. So this is actually very, very difficult for black, because it's impossible almost to prevent this. If black would move the king away to prevent this bishop to g7 check, then we can simply take on f8, and after this the queen can enter on the h file, or this f6 bishop is hanging if black wants to retake. So this is really not a solution. Now in the final position of the game, if black takes now on d5, then again we have this bishop moving away, giving a check. So if the king now goes to g8, then we can take here with check on d5. So this leads in all variations to attacking possibilities for white, and the position of black is simply impossible to hold. If you want to do a calculation exercise for yourself, just have a look at this position and see what happens after, for example, queen to e8 or knight takes d5, and well, all those kind of possible replies of black, and try to find a way to win for white. Alright, I hope you found this an interesting video, and it gives you some ideas of this Austrian attack against the Pirc defense. It's a very strong weapon. If you are a player with an attacking style, then this is one of the main ideas that you can use to fight the Pirc defense. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on YouTube.